Okay, so now that this painting is dry, you can see that we haven't sanded it yet. We're gonna have to sand it. I'm also gonna have to touch this part up right here where I didn't exactly prime it all the way. So anyway, when you're sanding resin off the back, make sure you wear a mask and goggles and all the stuff. You definitely don't want to inhale resin dust. It's really, really bad for your health. So when you're sanding though, you don't want to sand it all the way down. So like these drips, you want to leave a little bit on, like where my thumb is here, like that's pretty much acceptable for the most part, but bring all the rest of them down. The reason is because if you sand all of it down, the resin won't have anything to hold on to and it's gonna delam from the rest of the wood. So definitely always leave a little bit on. We're going to show you how we do our hardware as far as wiring and D-rings. I like to wire my paintings in multiple directions because I really don't know which direction it's going to hang on the wall until I find the wall that it's going to hang on. And I let that wall dictate which way the painting will hang, what orientation and all the fun stuff like that. Because it might look great on one wall, straight up and down, but on another wall, it looks great horizontally. Or just, you know, different options. You got 4 different options, play around with it. I'm a trial and error guy personally, so I always recommend just to try things and see what works. We are gonna be hanging this piece, so it's gonna go sideways on the wall like this. I don't know if this is gonna be the top or if this is gonna be the top, so I'm gonna D-ring it for both directions. There's no point in wiring a painting like this that's this wide and this heavy because the wire is going to be, it's not gonna have enough angle to it. It's gonna pull the D-rings out of the sides if you do that. So what I suggest doing is actually installing D-rings close to the top on both sides, and you gotta do it perfect. You have to do it perfectly even on both sides. Same thing with your wall anchors. They have to be perfect. You only get one shot at it. So I'm gonna teach you how to do that. So what you're gonna need is you're gonna need some D-rings. I like to use 2 different kinds of D-rings for depending on what I'm doing. I use the triple D-rings. I call these triple D-rings. Call them what you will. And then the double D-rings. And get some good screws. And I like to pre-drill all of the holes for the D-rings that go on the like the back of the canvas. So if we're gonna hang this thing horizontally, first thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna make my line here, my mark, and I'm gonna go 6 inches down, 6, and I'm gonna mark it right in the middle there. I'm gonna do the exact same thing here. It's very important that you make these marks exactly the same on both sides. Okay? Exactly the same. And this is basically just a pilot hole for the hardware. So then I'm gonna take a drill bit and I'm gonna pre-drill both of these. Here's my mark. You don't have to go very far in, it's just to get it started. And then take my D-ring and I use that pre-drill for the top hole, okay? So I just screw in. All right. And I do that for both sides. That way they're both the exact same height. All right. So now, go back in with the drill bit and pre-drill these holes. Where did that drill bit go? Did it just fly away? Here it is. And all right, so that's one side down. Now, you don't always have to pre-drill it, but I like to pre-drill them because the last thing I want to have happen is the wood split and then have to deal with that. So just pre-drill it. All right, so that side's done. Now again, I like to let the wall decide which way is top and which way is bottom for the painting. So what I'll do before I get to the client's house, I'll go ahead and install hardware going both directions. So I spend as little time dealing with it at the client's house as possible. So we'll go ahead and install hardware on the other side as well. I'm gonna do the same thing, marking it at the exact same height as the other side. So I'm gonna go 6 inches down from my mark. Here's my mark on that side. Here's my mark on this side. All right. Let me change my glove. So now I'll drill my pilot hole. Again, I go right in the middle. I don't have to go very deep either, just deep enough to where the wood doesn't split. Where's that other mark? It's right there. It's right in the middle. All right. Go back to the Phillips head. And again, I'm going to use the triple D rings. I'm going to put this one in the top, again, top hole. All right. Same thing on the other side. There we go, right here. And then you still have to pre-drill these other holes, but you have the perfect template here. You don't have to do any measuring or guesswork. Just do a little bit. A little bit. Switch back to the Phillips head. And you're done. Now, your hardware is exactly the same on both sides. What this allows you to do is literally put one hole in the sheetrock for each side, and then you can flip the painting and it'll still be the same height. The less amount of holes you can put in the client's wall, the better. Anyway, pro tip. You like that? Pro tip. All right, another example of how I would wire this same painting. And again, we're not hanging this painting vertically, but if we were, we would wire it. We wouldn't D-ring it. Personally, that's what I would do. It's always easier just to wire it when it comes to install, because if you have to do the D-rings, the thing about like hanging a piece like this, for instance, where it's D-ringed on both sides, is you have to get both of the wall hangers or the anchors exactly right. You really only get one shot. And if you mess that up, you have to adjust the height of the D-rings on the painting. That's the hack that I've learned if you screw up on the actual anchor placement. So Try to avoid that. Measure twice, drill once. So again, if we were gonna hang this painting vertically, what I would do in this case is actually wire it. So I'm gonna go ahead and pretend like I'm gonna hang it vertically. What I would do, again, I would basically go about a third of the way down. So for this one, this is a 6-foot high painting. I think this one is 72 inches by 36 inches. So with 72 inches of height, I would go a third of the way down. So that's 24 inches. Basically 2 feet out of the 6 feet. Okay, so I'm gonna go 24 inches here. I'm gonna mark that same mark on the inside on both sides. I'm also gonna do the same thing on the bottom because, again, I let the wall dictate which side is the top and which side is the bottom. So I will mark it for both directions. Now I will say, when you're wiring a painting, these marks, there's a larger margin of error. You have a lot more wiggle room. And reason being is because it's only on one point. So if it's a little bit off balance, it's not the end of the world. All right. So what I'll do, we're just gonna use these double D rings for this one. I'm gonna go in the middle. Again, I don't wanna go to the edge, I wanna go to the middle. Okay. I'm gonna do the same thing on this side. I'm gonna go in the middle. And I really don't waste my time pre-drilling the wood, these 1x3s in this direction, because it's less likely to split. At least that's my experience with these 1x3s. All right, get a close up of it so you can see on both sides. You've got the D-rings in the middle on the inside of the stretchers, or 1x3s in this case. And so now what I'm gonna do, I like to have all of my artwork have pretty much the same offset for the wire. So what I do is I mark 6 inches down from the top. So I'll take my tape measure and I will eyeball 6 inches down from the top. And I'll make my mark right there, okay? This is just some leftover scrap wire that I have from God knows what. I'm not sure even. Anyway, so what I'll do, I'll wrap it once. Wrap it twice. Now that it's been looped around twice, what I'll do is I'll just lock it in place. I'll just spin it around and it's pretty well done. I love using this green wire, coated wire, whatever you want to call it. It's nice and bendy. So basically, now that I get it to that offset where I want it to hang, I'll just bend the wire, okay? I kind of keep it in the middle and take it to my mark and then I bend it, okay? Now, I don't need this much wire, so I'm gonna chop the rest off. Needle nose pliers, wire cutters, whatever you got. We just don't need that much wire. Probably still have way too much, but whatever. And again, this doesn't have to be perfect unless you're wiring a triptych, and then you want it to be perfect. Triptychs like this, total pain in the ass to install. So any way that you can make it easier on yourself, go ahead and try to do that. How I do that is by measuring 3 times and drilling or cutting or whatever only 1 time. Making sure all 3 canvases are exactly the same, wired the exact same way. If not, you're gonna have to measure for each individual canvas when you go to install wall hangers on the wall. And that just doesn't sound fun to me. But if you don't believe me, try it for yourself. All right. We got way too much wire on this one. Chopping that rest off. Okay, and as you can see, the wire, it's got a lot more angle to it, meaning where it's gonna sit on the wall hanger, it's pulling these D-rings up. Can you see with the camera angle what I'm pointing at? It's actually pulling up on the wire instead of across. So that tension is less likely to rip this hardware out. I hope that makes sense. Anyway, I just wired this one just to show you. We're actually not gonna use this, but we're gonna leave it because I don't like to undo my work. In a normal case, what I would do is actually install the D-rings and wire it this way also. But like I said, we're definitely not installing this one vertically. We're going horizontally. So, we'll probably do another follow-up video actually showing you how we do the install as far as installing the anchors or the wall hangers on the wall. But that's all we got.